Clive Thomas, please.
Yeah. My name's Clive Thomas, I'm 71, I was born and brought up in Penryn. And up in the valley. And up in the valley, up there when we were kids, we used to go up there and play. In the woods and in the, what we used to call the craft. It was all covered in bluebells and lovely, both sides, beautiful walks and all like that. And now, I think these people that want to build these houses have took enough land from Penryn. They've built too many bloody houses here already. I think it's enough is enough. We don't need any more houses in Penryn. Go down Land's End or anywhere like that and build them down there. We don't want them any more in Penryn. Thank you very much.
Next question, Pete Shields, please.
Hello everyone. I will try and project my voice. Not very good.
Nice and loud.
Louder.
It's alright, it's alright. I'll just try and do with that. Yeah, it's a good thing. Okay. Over 2,300 people signed a petition opposing the development at College Valley. I'm one of those people. My signature was not just about opposing water developments, but comes from a love of college and Glasgow Valley. A space rich in wildlife, history, a place to be peaceful in green surroundings, untouched by urban development. The council at the last meeting said they wanted to hear the views from the developers. Will Penryn Town Council and Cornwall Council give the same respect to the 2,300 people and counting who have signed the petition, as well as the wider Penryn community, by initiating a landscape character assessment? We as a community would be happy to work alongside the council to make this happen. And finally, it's not always a question of what we have to gain, but maybe the question should be what we have to lose.
Appreciate your comments, and I think it is, as I said before, it is a last resort that's looking at greenfield sites. As I explained, when looking at kind of the housing target that's been set, our approach has always been to look at kind of urban sites first before looking at kind of greenfield areas. But in particular reference to kind of the landscape character assessment, one of the things that we did was, when we understood that we still needed to find more housing beyond what the urban area could accommodate, there was a whole raft of different assessments we did of all land that immediately surrounded the Falmouth and Penryn area. One of those assessments was a landscape character assessment that was undertaken by landscape architects within Cornwall Council, and that was kind of part of the process that fed in to identifying appropriate sites. Now, I think one of the problems we've got is, I'd be a liar standing up here and saying, in any of the towns we've got in Cornwall, we found a perfect site, because every site's got some advantages in terms of if you're looking for development. Every site's got some advantages, every site's got a number of disadvantages. But what we've got to try and do is weigh up all of those pros and cons. But in weighing up that and looking at all of those different factors, looking at landscape character was one of those areas that was very important to us, and one of the areas that we did have some independent advice on. So some of that, or a lot of that work, is already in place and is available.
When was that assessment done?
An assessment was being done in around 2011, 2012.
Can you share the methodology used to do that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I can't share with you now, I'm not a landscape architect, but and I think the assessments, I'm just looking at a colleague, are they still on the website? So I think that assessment is on the website now, which again, and the methodology for that, and what we can do is provide the link to that. If the methodology isn't there, again, we can provide a link to that on the web page. Yeah.
A follow-on question from the landscape assessment. A lot of places do consult with relevant bodies and the community, and I think that would be really important to update that process for Penryn particularly as a process, and that can feed into what's happening.
Can you just clarify what you exactly mean there? Do you understand?
I understand what you're asking. However, I'm not sure what we would get out of doing that assessment again. We'd certainly, as we've explained, what we're going to have is another public consultation. I'm sure will be a much more recognised, understood, and well-versed conversation that'll be with all the people that's kind of knowing about this project now than perhaps it was more did in 2012. But so, in answer to your question, I'm not sure we get any value out of doing that assessment again. But the other part of your question was around consultation with other agencies. Yes, absolutely. We are talking, we have spoken to, and we'll continue to talk to people like Natural England and other bodies about the appropriateness or not of the sites that we're looking at for these towns and in other parts of the county.
Right, next question is Joe
KN. Yeah, KN,
Oh,
yeah.
right, thank you.
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay. Objective 1 of Theme 6 of Penryn's community plan says it will promote self-build, cooperative housing and community build projects. To what extent has the council researched, encouraged and developed this as an alternative to large-scale developer-led developments?
Okay with that microphone, everybody?
Yeah.
Yes. I think the first thing is that housing sometimes gets quite mixed up as an issue. The council has been very proactive in trying to deliver affordable housing for Cornwall because that view has come back very strongly from the community that they feel that's a priority and they want us to support that. And actually the council recently consulted on the budget pressures and said what should we cut, what should we protect. And actually, one of the highest priorities that people came back with was still affordable housing, which for something I've been doing for 20 years was a bit of a surprise even to me, I must say. But the affordable housing is not the same as all housing. I'm sure there's a really broad representation here tonight. I'm sure not all of you live in local needs housing. The majority of you will live in a home that you own, that you've bought outright or you have a mortgage on. And for that reason...
Well, that's a bit of an assumption.
Anyone want to take a vote? Who lives in a home that they own or have with a mortgage? I'm trying to explain to you that the council's objective in looking at land for housing is not just about providing affordable housing. That's very important, and that's what the majority of the community said they want to see. But as a planning authority, we're required by law and by the government to demonstrate we've got enough homes for all kinds of needs in the community, including people that want to buy their home, rent their home, have community solutions. We're required to show that we're providing for all kinds of needs. So when we look at land for housing over a 30-year period, it's not just about your needs now, it's about future generations, how populations will change, housing for older people, housing for families, housing for people that can't afford to buy, housing for people who want to own their own home. We're required to show that we can accommodate those needs and future needs. That's what we have to do, and that's a tough ask when you're looking at land and you're looking at sensitive places in Cornwall. But that's why this work goes on. In terms of affordable housing, which is my job, affordable housing is defined in lots of different ways. We provide council housing. We build council housing still in Cornwall at very low rents. We have housing association housing. We have homes to buy at a cheaper price. But increasingly, there's a lot of interest from communities who want to do their own thing, who want to do self-build, who want to do cooperative housing. And our policies, which are part of those policies that Matthew's referred to, that will go forward in the plan, permit all those things. And so if we require affordable housing on a site, there's nothing to prevent part of that housing being service plots for people who want to build their own homes, custom build, self-build as it's called. All those solutions can help meet housing needs. And in terms of your question about what the council's doing about it, for example, we have a financial fund that helps self-builders who want to build affordable housing to buy. So we actually lend the money to help them deliver it. So this plan is about addressing a really broad range of housing needs. It's not just about affordable housing, but that's really important to the council because the majority of our community said it's important to them. But housing is also about saying your grandkids, your children, if they grow up in Cornwall, they are...
But we don't want them built in our valley. Build them somewhere else.
I'm not here to talk about the locations.
Please be quiet.
I'm not here to talk about the locations that have been selected. As Matthew said, there's a dialogue and there's planners and there's a process that's gone. I deliver affordable housing across Cornwall, and I will look to ensure that whatever sites housing is built on, a significant proportion of those are affordable homes for local people. That's my job and that's my objective.
Does it include students? Your job, does it include housing students?
Joe, are you happy with your answer? Have you any more questions?
I'm just wondering if there's anything that's actually happening in Penryn, because you're talking more about Cornwall as a whole.
Sorry, in terms of a specific kind of housing?
How about council housing?
Well, of course...
We're more about self-build.
To deliver housing, you need to identify land to build it on. And that's the dilemma, isn't it? People say they want housing, but we have to be able to secure sites.
How many on this plot then have you actually allocated?
Well, we haven't allocated any. What happens
No,
is
how many do you get?
the sites that come forward through this document that Matthew's referred to, the allocations document for Cornwall, the councillors have agreed proportions of affordable housing for those sites. And in Penryn, on that type of site, whether or not it's that site, the target policy is 40%. So
That College Farm,
I might have been speaking out of turn, but when you're already building Glasney, at the moment, he's now developing now. Well,
Yeah,
I understand that if there's enough money over from what he's building, you'll get affordable housing. That's why there's not very many affordable houses on that site now that is being developed. You agree with that?
the whole point about allocating sites in a plan, as Matthew said, is that if you don't, say we didn't allocate any land for housing, we're obliged to make provision for land for housing. If we didn't allocate it, it's what's actually happening every month now at planning committee. A developer comes forward, they propose a site, your politicians might listen to your views and feel really strongly it's not the right site, but if you don't have a plan to say we don't want this housing here, we want it there, if you don't have a plan, you're very vulnerable to that developer challenging you and going to an appeal, and the government, the Secretary of State or the planning inspector allowing that development to happen because you haven't made provision for housing. So it's really important you have planned development. The advantage of allocating the sites early is that you ensure that the developers know absolutely from the outset what your affordable housing policies are, what you have to provide for education and schools, for open space. They know that from the outset.
Before you whittle on any more, can you exactly answer that question?
I'm sorry,
Is
but I don't
the
think that's
affordable
reasonable.
housing that is built on that site now
There's
was
4
a percentage
houses.
of not
4.
being put to affordable housing?
I'm sorry, you're not the person who was speaking. And have you put your name down to ask the question?
I don't think it's
Please
fair
don't
to talk
interrupt.
about me whittling on.
No, yeah.
I don't. I really disagree.
Talking on, talking.
Okay, are you happy with your reply now?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Councillor.
To answer that lady's question, I've been on the council about 7 years. We talk about plots for self-builds, I was going to say regularly, but quite often. But alas, we don't own any land. And at £1 million an acre, whatever it is, building land, we haven't got any to give away anyway. But we do talk about it. but we haven't got access to them.
Right, we must move on. Next question from Jan Webb, please. Jan.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors of Penryn and Cornwall, during their presentation on Monday, Walker Development Team, and I quote, talked of trying to master plan the whole area. They talked of College Valley houses, gifted land, and eventually a new surgery near Asda. It should not be up to a commercial developer to mastermind our town.
That he owns most of the land.
I have finished.
Yeah, we know.
Well over 2,000 people who live here were interested enough to sign a petition. They, along with many others, are interested in and care about what happens to our area. I was really pleased to hear what Louise said about planning. Will Penryn and Cornwall councils work with those people and create a master plan of our own for our town? I understand there are government grants for this sort of initiative. So my question is, how will both councils harness the positive energy that there is in Penryn so we can all work together to plan for ourselves?
Job that we will do is to consider whether we need a neighbourhood plan. It is a lot of work, but we are prepared to do it. We do this voluntarily, you know. It's a lot of work, and we will. I think it's time that we did one. It's only just come. We've only just not realised, but we've only just become aware that we probably need one, and then all your fears will be.
Thank you. Might
talk about neighbourhood plans.
Thank you. Might I say, could as many people of Penryn be involved as possible?
We've done a plan a few years ago when Carrick was up about where to build, where not to build, and we took it to Carrick, and it was not accepted by Carrick. This is a new one. This is a new thing. And as Madam Mayor said, we will go ahead with this now and look at it, and you people will be involved in it. That's all we can do. We're only here just to do what the people want and what we think is best for the people of the town.
Thank you.
Sharon. There she is. Yes, I wanted to add a bit to what you were saying there. Obviously, there's been a failure in the consultation process before. It's very disappointing. We don't feel too guilty, you know, we went through the process. Now, there is some history here. We have a community plan that the lady there spoke about, and I was actually involved in that. In those days, it was very hard to engage with Penryn. Farnworth came forward because it was Farnworth and Penryn. I think we had about 2 people from Penryn came forward. Now we have 2,000. It's absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
We have a new town team. That's just started a few months ago. That town team is not a part of the council. It's a means of regenerating the town, bringing in ideas, and also bringing in people such as yourself for task and finish groups. Lastly, on the neighbourhood plan, we have been looking at this quite in depth for some time. We're fortunate because the community plan has already done a lot of consultation work and a lot of paperwork work, which otherwise you'd have to do from scratch for a neighbourhood plan. But this is a serious question. However, what was said is true. It's a lot of work, it's expensive, there needs to be a referendum at the end of it, and all who engage with it need to know what they're taking on when we start it. Okay.
Next question from Joanne Tyrrell.
Well, my question is very similar to Jan's actually, but I'll read what I put. Some green space close and in walking distance to where you live is hugely important for people's well-being. We have very little left in Penryn. It must be abundantly clear to the Town Council the strength of feeling from the residents of Penryn. With that in mind, how will the Town Council now support the residents whom they represent?
The position is that we have had a resolution already. We're now looking to maybe revoke that resolution, but to do that I have to have 2 councillors write to say they want us to revoke the decision. I haven't received those yet, but hopefully we will.
Yeah. You could do it now. Do it now.
Put your hand up if you'll do it for us.
I've got.
Anybody?
I'm the next one.
All right, you're
William Logan.
with you. What about Joanne too? Are you happy, Joanne?
Yes, no, Bill's next for me.
Okay.
That's all right. Can you hear me okay? The problem I have is that the councillors, or the people from Cornwall Council, the councillors from Cornwall, have still not told us why they prioritise College Valley. That's the important question. But for most of us, the prospect of losing College Valley to housing is a recent discovery. This project has been progressing while we were getting on with our lives. So we came to this situation late. What we request now is some time to organise a more recent response. There are 200 and 250 dwellings between now and 230, so we have some time, but we need some more time as well. There are 2 separate but related topics we are addressing tonight. The first is viability and deliverability of developing this pristine site. The second is a prioritisation of this site in the first place. There is a lot of opposition to the site, why it was chosen in the first place, and that's a separate issue. But the goal or objective of most people here tonight is to wish that the prioritisation of College Valley be cancelled and open up the debate again about which site to prioritise. According to the Penryn Council website, in order to do that, we need to convince 2 town councillors to agree to give written notice in accordance with the Standing Order 10. There is an upcoming election for 2 new councillors, and the people of Penryn hope to elect 2 councillors who we will hope will provide that notice. But tonight, I would like to ask the councillors here if any of them will commit to providing that written notice and support the wishes of Penryn people to think again. I can't really believe that these councillors want to destroy College Valley. So, what we have to ask are there 2 brave councillors here tonight who will put their hand up and say they will commit to putting in a written request to think again. Can we take those names, please? Yeah.
I wouldn't. Why aren't the rest of you putting your hands up? Why? I'm really upset.
You only need to.
Go on, don't put your hands up. You feel a lot better. Go on. What would happen if you got 5 letters or 10 letters?
One was just silent.
We have
Stand up, really.
Yeah, but what would happen?
Hey! They're all answers.
Are you sure?
Let us go back to our council, discuss it with our councillors. We're listening to you, we listen to the developer, we do it voluntary. We're doing it for what we think.
So do we.
We're all doing it. We do what we think is right for the people of Penryn.
So do we.
Right? So I think it's unfair that you sit there tonight and ask councillors to put their hand up.
Really?
Yes, I do think it's unfair.
I don't know why.
Excuse me, you're representing us.
We are representing you.
You're not. Yes, you're not.
We're here listening to you.
You're Johnny Boy, come on, stand up for Penryn.
You're going to give us.
If you don't want to do the job, resign and let people do it.
We will discuss this as a council. We're listening to you tonight. We've listened to the developer. We listened to Cornwall Council representatives. I think it's unfair that you come here tonight and ask us to do that, put our hands up. We will do what we think is right by ourselves. That is what you're going to leave us with.
Well done, you two. Well done, you two.
Will you stop shouting, please? You're disturbing the meeting. If you don't stop, I will ask you to leave.
Pointing out the blindingly obvious.
What's that?
That this is about the people of Penryn, not just the council. And that if you had consulted properly in 2012 and told us... that, no, I'm not on your list, unfortunately. I wish I was. But I was busy actually working.
The next question is Louis Ratcliffe.
As a young person in Penryn, I'd like my voice to be heard. My generation is the most inactive in history. The woods is an area where children play.
Sorry.
Do you want to come to the front, Lou? We've got to hear you, though.
My generation is the most inactive in history.
Thank you.
The woods is an area where children play, walk their dogs, run, and play on fields. Glasney playing field is already waterlogged, and all water runoff would make it unusable. This will leave us only the streets. There is already a problem in Penryn for traffic. It was only last year my sister was clipped by a car. Bringing 250 houses will increase the cars by, I estimate, 300 to 500. What will Penryn be like for me and my friends in the next years? Never mind my children. How are we going to make sure young people are safe, active and healthy in Penryn without having to go further afield?
All I can ask you is, when you grow up, will you want to buy a house or rent a house?
He wants to play.
Will there be a play area?
Answer his question. Don't ask him a question.
Reiterate, the land we are talking about is not the land where the children play. It is farmland. It is fenced in, gated, and it says, keep out farmland.
That is it.
You should not be playing on that. Where is your trespassing?
One of the points was it will affect it directly in the areas that they play in the lower valley.
Yeah.
We used to play up there all the time when I was a kid.
We still do. We still do.
In the woods.
Every day.
In the fields. Everywhere. We used to go up and play Robin Hood and things like that.
It's on your map. It's on your map. It's not on the ordnance survey, but it's on your map where the plan is. And I've discovered the border where the builder is going to do is wiped it out. It's on your map. Look at your map. There are two walks.
All the lines on the map are on walking land. None of it is in the Glasney corridor.
Answer Louise. I want answers, not...